The fear of being watched, scopophobia. There's a moment, just before sleep takes you, when the room feels too still, and you wonder, is someone looking? Not with anger, not with intent, but simply watching. For most, it's a fleeting thought, gone with a blink. But for someone with scopophobia, it's a quiet hum beneath every day. A feeling that eyes are always present, in mirrors, in windows, in the dark corners of a room. It's not paranoia. It's the deep, bodily sense that to be seen is to be judged, measured, found wanting. The brain learns this early. A teacher calling your name too loudly in class, a classmate laughing at your answer, a parent's gaze that felt more like surveillance than care. These moments stack up, not as memories, but as instincts. So the body adapts. Hats are pulled low. Hoods stay up. Mirrors are avoided. Even webcams are taped over, not because of hackers, but because the idea of being watched, even digitally, feels violating. Social spaces become minefields. Open-plan offices, crowded subways, even family dinners, anywhere eyes might land, require mental preparation. Some people choose remote work not for flexibility, but to escape the weight of glances over cubicle walls. The fear isn't of people. It's of what their eyes might carry, judgment, comparison, rejection. And so, invisibility becomes safety. To be unseen is to be free. But in the hush of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. Most eyes pass over us without notice. Most glances are distracted, tired, looking for something else. You are not always being watched. Sometimes, you are simply part of the background, like furniture, like light, like air. And that's okay. To be unseen is not to be unloved. It's just to be human, breathing in the quiet, allowed to exist without performance. You don't have to be seen to be real. You are here. You are whole. Even in the dark. And right now, no one is watching. There is only you, and the soft rhythm of your breath, and the gentle pull of sleep. You are safe. You are held. You are enough. The fear of hands, chirophobia. It's not the touch that frightens. It's the presence of hands themselves, resting on a table, reaching for a glass, gesturing in conversation. For someone with chirophobia, hands are not neutral. They are loaded with meaning, memory, and menace. Long fingers curl like spiders. Palms open like traps. Even a photograph of hands clasped in prayer can send a quiet ripple through the nervous system. This isn't about germophobia or social anxiety. It's a deeper unease, the sense that hands are too expressive, too powerful, too close to intent. They can give, yes, but they can also take, strike, point, accuse. A hand doesn't need to act to feel threatening. Its mere shape, the curve of the thumb, the spread of the fingers, can be enough to trigger a reflexive pull back. Some trace this fear to a single moment, a doctor's cold grip during an injection, a stranger's hand brushing theirs in a crowded train, or a childhood prank where hands were used to cover their eyes and spin them in circles until they fell. Others carry it from stories, horror films where hands burst from the ground, or myths where hands reach from the dark. The brain learns to associate hands with unpredictability. So life adjusts. Gloves become a comfort, even indoors. Handshakes are declined with soft excuses, "I've got a cold," or "I'd rather not." Even waving feels risky, because it draws attention to the very thing they wish to hide. Photos are avoided if hands are visible. Art is curated to exclude close-ups of fingers. And mirrors, when they catch the reflection of their own hands, can feel like a confrontation. But in the hush of evening, when the body begins to unwind, there's a different truth. Hands are not all the same. Yours are not the hands of memory. They belong to you. They obey your breath, your pulse, your stillness. They can open. They can close. They can rest, palm up, palm down, doing nothing at all. And in this moment, they are not reaching. They are not grabbing. They are simply part of you, quiet, warm, alive. You don't have to look at them. You don't have to show them. You only have to feel them, resting gently, as the weight of the day begins to fall away. The room is calm. The air is soft. And your hands, like the rest of you, are allowed to be still. The fear of gravity failing, barophobia. It's not the height that frightens. It's the quiet, persistent thought, what if the ground just stops holding? For someone with barophobia, gravity isn't a law of nature. It feels more like a promise, one that could break at any moment. Standing on a balcony, walking across a bridge, even lying in bed, there's a whisper beneath the surface. What if it lets go? This isn't the fear of falling. It's the fear of the force that keeps us from falling, vanishing without warning. The idea that we might simply float away, untethered, into the silence of space. Some trace it to a dream, falling endlessly through blackness, limbs flailing, no ground in sight. Others to a moment of dizziness, a sudden vertigo that made the world feel unmoored. A few recall staring at the stars as a child, wondering what keeps us from drifting into the void. The fear isn't logical. Gravity is constant. But the mind doesn't always listen to logic. It listens to sensation. And when the body sways, when the floor seems to tilt, the nervous system fires, danger. So life adjusts. Feet stay on solid ground. Elevators are avoided. Even escalators feel like tests of faith. Balconies are crossed quickly, if at all. And lying flat becomes a comfort, the full weight of the body pressed into the mattress, a reminder of being held. The fear isn't of movement. It's of release. Of becoming weightless, not in freedom, but in terror. Of being untethered from everything familiar. But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. You are held. Not by will, not by thought, but by something ancient and silent. The same force that keeps the moon in orbit keeps you here. You don't have to hold on. You just have to be. And right now, you are. Safe. Anchored. Belonging to the earth, as it belongs to the sky. The stars do not fall. The trees do not float. And neither do you. Your breath rises and falls, not into space, but into the room, into the sheets, into the stillness. There is no pull from above. Only the steady embrace of the world beneath you. You are not drifting. You are not lost. You are exactly where you belong. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry you away. It pulls you deeper into the quiet certainty of being here, now, grounded, whole, and safe. The fear of opinions, Alloxiophobia. A simple question echoes in conversation. What do you think? For most, it's an invitation to share, to connect, to be seen. But for someone with Alloxiophobia, it's not an opening, it's a trap. Because an opinion isn't just a thought. It's a target. It can be judged, corrected, twisted, remembered. The fear isn't of being wrong. It's of what happens after, the silence that follows, the raised eyebrow, the way a single comment can echo in memory for years, long after the speaker has forgotten it. Some carry this from childhood, a teacher who said, "That's not how we think," in front of the class, or a parent who reshaped every answer into something more acceptable. Others from adolescence, a joke that fell flat, A heartfelt answer met with laughter, a moment when speaking up led not to connection, but to isolation. The brain learns, to speak is to risk. And not just embarrassment, exposure. So the body adapts. Shoulders drop. Voice lowers. Answers become vague. I don't know. Maybe. I guess so. Social media is scrolled without commenting. Meetings are survived in silence. Even compliments are deflected, because accepting praise feels like inviting scrutiny. The fear isn't loud. It's quiet, a constant hum beneath the surface, asking, will this make me smaller? Will this make me disappear? But in the stillness of night, when no one is listening, there's a softer truth. Opinions are not verdicts. They are weather, shifting, temporary, often forgotten by morning. Yours don't have to be bold. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to be yours. And right now, in this quiet space, you don't need to share them. You only need to know they exist. That you have a voice, even if it's not speaking. That your thoughts are allowed to unfold, slowly, without an audience. You are not defined by what you say, or don't say. You are not measured by agreement or disagreement. You are here, breathing, feeling, real. And as the room grows still, the weight of imagined judgment begins to dissolve. The world isn't waiting for your answer. It's not watching. It's not keeping score. There is only this breath, this moment, this deep, quiet safety. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to perform. You only have to rest. And in this rest, you are whole. The fear of the sky, Uranophobia. The sky doesn't always feel like freedom. For someone with Uranophobia, it doesn't inspire wonder, it presses down. Not with weight, but with scale. An endless expanse that offers no edge, no anchor, no place for the eyes to rest. It's not storms or lightning that frighten. It's the openness itself, the vast, unbroken blue above, the star-strewn black at night, the way clouds drift without direction, as if the heavens are indifferent to everything below. This fear isn't about falling. It's about being exposed. Standing beneath that dome, you feel seen by something too large to understand. Some trace it to a moment, watching a plane vanish into the haze, feeling suddenly small, suddenly alone. Others to a childhood memory of lying on their back, staring up, and the dizzying thought, what if I fall into it? The brain maps the sky not as beauty, but as absence, a ceiling that could open, a void that might swallow. So life adjusts. Walks are taken under covered walkways. Parks are avoided on clear days. Even photos of sunsets can feel overwhelming, too bright, too infinite. Some keep curtains drawn, not for privacy, but to block the view upward. Travel plans avoid open deserts or high cliffs with panoramic views. And stargazing? That's not peaceful. It's exposure. But in the quiet of night, when the room is dark and the breath slows, there's a different truth. The sky does not reach for you. It simply is. Like breath, like time, like silence. It doesn't demand your attention. It doesn't judge your presence. It only holds light. And you, right here, right now, are not falling. You are resting. The earth is beneath you. The walls are around you. The blanket is warm. You are contained. The stars do not call your name. They burn in their own rhythm, distant, uninvolved. You are not required to face the infinite. You only need to face this moment. And in this moment, you are safe. Some people find comfort in fragments, watching the sky through tree branches, where leaves break the vastness into pieces. Others look at painted ceilings, where the dome is imagined, not real. These small acts help the mind believe you don't have to hold the whole sky. You only have to hold your breath. And as it rises, and falls, and rises again, you are here. Grounded. Whole. Not lost in the heavens, but cradled by the earth. Sleep comes not from conquering the fear, but from letting it rest beside you, like a thought that no longer needs an answer. The fear of symmetry, Symmetrophobia. Perfect balance should feel peaceful. But for someone with Symmetrophobia, symmetry doesn't bring calm, it brings unease. Not because it's ugly, but because it feels too perfect. Like a face frozen in a mask, like a room arranged by a ghost, like a reflection that blinks when you don't. It's not just in architecture or design, it's in faces, in gestures, in the way objects are placed. When everything matches, the mind whispers, "This isn't real." Because life isn't symmetrical. A scar on one cheek. A shoe tied tighter than the other. A tree bent by wind. These are signs of living. But symmetry feels like control. Like something is hiding. Like the world is holding its breath. Some trace this fear to childhood, dolls with identical eyes, a parent who demanded order in every detail, or a classroom where desks were lined up with military precision. Others to dreams, walking down a hallway where every door, every light, every shadow repeats without change, and the exit never comes. The discomfort isn't about aesthetics. It's about authenticity. So the body seeks imbalance. Asymmetrical clothing. Crooked pictures. Coffee cups placed off-center. Even music with irregular rhythms feels safer, because it stumbles, breathes, lives. Daily life adjusts in quiet ways. Mirrors are avoided if they show perfect reflections. Photos are cropped to break the balance. Even phone icons are arranged unevenly, just to feel more human. But in the hush of evening, when the world slows and the breath deepens, there's a gentler truth. Nothing natural is perfectly mirrored. Not your breath, not your thoughts, not your heartbeat. And that's okay. Imperfection isn't flaw. It's proof. Proof that you are alive, changing, real. You don't have to be balanced to be whole. You only have to be. And right now, in this moment, you are not required to match anything. You don't have to align, to conform, to repeat. You can be lopsided. You can be uneven. You can be soft in some places, sharp in others. The world doesn't demand symmetry from you. It only asks you to be here. And as the weight of the day begins to dissolve, you don't have to hold yourself together perfectly. You can rest in the gentle chaos of being exactly as you are, slightly off, beautifully flawed, and deeply real. Sleep comes not when everything is in place, but when you stop trying to make it so. The fear of change, Metathesiophobia. A new brand of coffee sits on the shelf. It looks the same. Smells similar. But something about it feels like a betrayal. For someone with Metathesiophobia, change isn't just different, it's dangerous. Not because it's inherently bad, but because it breaks the known. It shifts the ground beneath the feet, even if only slightly. A department reshuffle, a redesigned app interface, a favorite cafe switching mugs, each feels like a small earthquake in the structure of daily life. The mind doesn't greet these shifts with curiosity. It braces. What hidden domino will this topple next? The fear isn't of progress. It's of unpredictability. Of losing control. Some trace it to a single moment, a sudden move in childhood, a breakup that rearranged everything in one conversation, or a company merger that erased jobs overnight. The brain records upheaval as ambush. So any deviation from the familiar becomes a warning sign. Daily habits calcify into anchors. Menus stay the same week after week. Wardrobes rotate around a few trusted colors. Software updates are clicked away with "remind me later" indefinitely. One person prints every document, digital or not, just to keep a paper version that can't morph without permission. The world feels safer when it stays still. Even small shifts, a new toothpaste flavor, a detour in the commute, can spark a low hum of tension. The body reads change as threat, not opportunity. But in the quiet of night, when the breath slows and the room holds its peace, there's a different truth. Change is not sabotage. It is breath. In, out, day, night, seasons turning. You are not the same person you were yesterday. And that's not failure. It's living. You don't have to chase change. You don't have to fear it. You only have to let it move through you, like wind through leaves. Gentle. Unavoidable. Natural. The coffee may taste different. The mug may feel strange. But the warmth is still warmth. The pause is still yours. And in this moment, nothing has been lost. Only shifted. Like sand beneath the tide. Like thoughts beneath the surface of sleep. You don't need to hold on to how things were. You only need to be here, now, in the quiet flow of time. The world doesn't demand perfection. It only asks you to be present. And as the weight of resistance begins to soften, you sink deeper into the mattress, into the breath, into the stillness. You are not falling behind. You are moving forward, gently, exactly as you should. And sleep comes not with control, but with release. The fear of paper, Papyrophobia. The sound is soft, a quiet rustle, like wind through dry leaves. But for someone with Papyrophobia, it's not gentle. It's a trigger. Because paper isn't just material. It's memory. A report card returned with red marks. A letter that ended a relationship. A medical form that asked too many questions. The fear isn't of cuts or ink. It's of what paper carries: judgment, obligation, permanence. Some trace it to school, standing in front of the class after a failed test, the teacher handing back papers one by one, each sheet a verdict. Others to bureaucracy, bills, contracts, forms that felt like traps, each signature binding them to something unseen. The brain maps paper as threat. So life adjusts. Digital receipts are preferred. Voice notes replace lists. Even books are avoided if they're physical. The sound of flipping pages can spark tension, not curiosity. A notebook left open on a table feels like an accusation. And handwriting? That's the most personal of all, a trace of the self, exposed, preserved. Some people shred notes immediately after reading. Others refuse to sign anything, even a birthday card, afraid the ink will outlive them. But in the quiet of night, when the mind begins to soften, there's a different truth. Paper is just paper. It holds words, not wounds. It can be torn, recycled, forgotten. It doesn't judge. It doesn't remember. It only exists in the moment it's touched. And you, right here, right now, are not defined by any document. You are not a grade, not a signature, not a file. You are alive. Breathing. Free. The weight of the past doesn't live in paper. It lives in the body. And the body can release it. One breath at a time. One moment of stillness. The fear doesn't vanish overnight. But small steps help. holding a blank sheet without writing. Feeling its texture, its weight, its silence. Not as enemy, but as object. Neutral. Harmless. Temporary. Some people start with origami, folding paper into shapes that mean nothing, just to feel it bend without consequence. Others keep a journal they never read, writing just to watch the ink fade into the fibers, knowing no one will see it. And over time, the rustle becomes just a sound. Not a warning. Not a memory. Just air moving through thin fibers. Like breath. Like time. Like life. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the weight of old letters or unsigned forms. It carries you into softness, into silence, into the quiet certainty that you are not what was written about you. You are what is here, now, breathing, feeling, real. And that is enough. The fear of rain, Ombrophobia. Rain taps against the window, soft, rhythmic, steady. For many, it's a lullaby. For someone with Ombrophobia, it's a warning. Not because of storms or floods, but because rain feels inescapable. It falls everywhere. It soaks through. It changes plans, cancels walks, turns streets into mirrors. The fear isn't of getting wet. It's of being overtaken, of the sky deciding something for you, without asking. Some trace this back to childhood, being caught in a sudden downpour without a coat, standing small and cold while the world blurred around them. Others to a moment of helplessness, watching water rise near the doorstep, or hearing thunder so loud it vibrated in the chest. The brain learns, rain disrupts. It doesn't consult. It arrives, and life must bend. So daily routines adjust. Weather apps are checked constantly. Umbrellas are carried always, even on cloudy days. Windows stay shut, not just to keep the damp out, but to muffle the sound, that steady patter that can feel like a countdown. Even the smell of wet pavement can bring tension, not nostalgia. Outdoor events are declined. Walks are postponed. And when rain does come, it's not greeted, it's endured. The body braces, as if each drop carries weight beyond its size. But in the quiet of night, when the room is warm and the breath slows, there's a softer truth. Rain does not judge. It does not target. It falls because it must. Like breath. Like time. Like tears. And it ends. Always. The clouds pass. The sun returns. And you, right here, right now, are dry. Safe. Warm. Listening to the rhythm, not as threat, but as lullaby. You don't have to face it. You don't have to move through it. You only have to rest beneath its sound, knowing it cannot reach you. Some people find comfort in watching rain through layers, behind glass, through curtains, from the back seat of a parked car. These small separations help the mind believe you are not exposed. You are protected. The storm is outside. You are inside. And inside is still. The fear doesn't vanish overnight. But over time, the sound can change. From warning to whisper. From invasion to presence. Like the earth breathing. Like the sky releasing what it no longer needs. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry you into the storm. It carries you beneath it, into the quiet beneath the noise, into the warmth beneath the blanket, into the deep, quiet safety of being exactly where you belong. You are not trapped. You are not lost. You are here. And this moment is yours. The fear of long words, hippopotomonstrosesquippedaliophobia. A word stretches across the page, syllable after syllable, like a path with no end in sight. For someone with hippopotomonstrosesquippedaliophobia, long words aren't just difficult to pronounce. They feel like traps. Not because of spelling, but because of power. These words belong to experts, to textbooks, to people who seem to know more. The fear isn't of language itself. It's of exclusion. Of not being smart enough. Of standing in a room full of conversations you can't follow, where every complex term feels like a door closing in your face. Some trace this fear to school, a spelling bee where the word pneumonultramicroscopic silicovolcaniconiosis brought laughter, or a teacher who corrected every stumble with a sigh. Others to adulthood, medical reports filled with terms that sounded like spells, legal documents that felt like puzzles designed to confuse. The brain maps long words as threat. So life adjusts. Simpler words are chosen. Complex topics are avoided. Even reading slows, scanning for landmines. A dictionary isn't a tool, it's a source of dread. And when a long word appears, the breath catches. The chest tightens. The mind races. What does it mean? What if I mispronounce it? What if I look foolish? But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the mind unwinds, there's a different truth. Words are just sounds. They don't own meaning. They borrow it. And meaning shifts, from person to person, moment to moment. You don't need to know every word to be intelligent. You don't need to understand every term to be worthy. You only need to be here, breathing, feeling, real. Some people begin to soften this fear by breaking words into smaller pieces, not to conquer them, but to see them as collections of smaller sounds, like waves made of droplets. Others listen to recordings of long words spoken slowly, not to memorize, but to let the rhythm pass through like music. Over time, the word loses its weight. It becomes just a shape in the air, a vibration, gone as soon as it arrives. You don't have to carry it. You don't have to hold it. You only have to let it pass. And in this moment, no word is too long. No thought too heavy. You are not lost. You are listening. And that's enough. The room is quiet. The air is still. And as sleep comes, it doesn't bring definitions or explanations. It brings release. You don't have to know. You don't have to perform. You only have to rest. And in this rest, you are whole. The fear of flowers, Anthophobia. They bloom in gardens, on tables, in vases, bright, fragrant, alive. But for someone with Anthophobia, flowers aren't beautiful. They're overwhelming. Too colorful. Too fragrant. Too much. Because beauty like this feels demanding. It asks to be admired. And if you don't, does it wilt? The fear isn't of nature. It's of expectation. Of standing before something so vivid and feeling blank in return. Some trace this to childhood, being forced to smell roses at a relative's house, or a bouquet placed on a coffin at a funeral, linking flowers to loss. Others to sensory sensitivity, petals that feel sticky, scents that trigger headaches, the way a single lily can flood a room with perfume. The brain maps flowers as pressure. Not danger, but emotional weight. So life adjusts. Gardens are avoided. Walks through parks are taken in winter, when the beds are bare. Even images of blooms in magazines or on screens can feel intense, too alive, too insistent. A gift of flowers is not received with joy, but with quiet dread. Where to put them, how long until they die, what it means if they're ignored. The impermanence adds to the unease. A flower opens, peaks, then fades, a silent reminder of time passing, of beauty slipping away. And in that decay, a deeper fear stirs, that all good things end, and attention only delays the fall. But in the stillness of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a gentler truth. A flower does not need your awe. It opens because it can. Not for you. Not for anyone. It simply lives. And you, right here, right now, don't have to respond. You don't have to feel anything. You only have to be. Breathing. Quiet. Free. Some people begin to soften this fear by starting small, a single dried leaf, a pressed petal in a book, something that carries no scent, no movement, no demand. Others watch time-lapse videos of flowers blooming, not to feel wonder, but to see the process as natural, inevitable, uninvolved. Over time, the bloom becomes not a performance, but a fact, like sunrise, like breath, like rain. You don't have to meet its beauty with your own. You only have to let it exist beside you, without obligation. And if a thought of a rose appears, let it pass. Like a cloud. Like a dream. Like nothing at all. The room is dark. The air is still. And as sleep comes, it doesn't ask for admiration. It only asks you to rest. You are not required to bloom. You only need to be here, as you are, unadorned, whole, and safe. The fear of forests, Dendrophobia. Trees rise tall, their branches tangled like thoughts, their roots buried in silence. For someone with Dendrophobia, forests are not peaceful. They are oppressive. Not because of animals or darkness, but because the woods feel alive in a way that's unknowable. Roots dig deep. Leaves whisper. And somewhere in the mind, a quiet question, are they watching? This isn't fear of getting lost, though that can be part of it. It's fear of the forest itself, as a presence. A living, breathing entity that doesn't need eyes to see. Some trace this to stories, of children vanishing in the woods, of spirits in the trees, of fairy tales where the forest judges and punishes. Others to a moment, standing beneath a canopy so thick the sky disappears, and feeling the air grow still, as if the world had paused. The brain maps the forest as mystery. And mystery, when it feels too vast, becomes threat. So life adjusts. Hiking trails are avoided. Camping is declined. Even photos of dense woods can spark unease, the way shadows pool between trunks like waiting shapes. Family vacations skip national parks. Movie scenes in deep woods are fast-forwarded. And walking through an urban park with tall trees? That, too, can feel like stepping into a threshold. The fear isn't loud. It hums beneath the surface, a low tension in the shoulders, a slight quickening of breath. Some people keep their distance by choosing routes with open skies, or by staying near buildings where glass and steel feel like protection. But in the quiet of night, when the room is warm and the breath slows, there's a different truth. Trees don't judge. They don't plan. They don't watch. They grow because they must. Like your breath. Like your heart. Like the slow turn of seasons. And you, right here, right now, are not lost. You are grounded. The earth supports you. The air feeds you. The walls around you hold you safe. Some people begin to soften this fear not by facing the forest, but by meeting a single tree. One they can see from a window. One they can walk past daily, noticing how it changes with the light, the wind, the rain. They don't have to touch it. They don't have to stand beneath it. They only need to see it as it is, not a guardian, not a threat, but a living thing, rooted, quiet, still. Over time, the forest begins to lose its weight. It becomes not a wall of green, but a collection of individuals, each growing in its own way. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry you into the deep woods. It carries you into the hush, into the warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not being watched. You are not being tested. You are simply here, breathing, safe, and held, not by the forest, but by the stillness within you. The fear of infinity, Apeirophobia. Numbers that never end. Hallways with no door. A loop with no exit. For someone with Apeirophobia, infinity isn't wonder, it's vertigo. Because endlessness means no relief. No finish line. No pause. The mind imagines counting forever, falling forever, existing without end. It's not awe. It's dread. The thought of time stretching forward and backward without boundary can make the chest tighten, the breath shorten. Some trace this fear to a philosophy class, a discussion of eternal recurrence, of space without edge, of a universe that goes on and on and on. Others to a dream, walking down a corridor where every turn leads to another identical stretch, and no matter how fast you walk, you never reach the end. The brain maps infinity as trap. Not because it's fast, but because it offers no closure. And closure is safety. A book with a final chapter. A song with a last note. A day that ends in sleep. But infinity refuses to close. It just continues. So life seeks boundaries. Stories are chosen with clear endings. Meditation apps avoid phrases like infinite awareness. Even stargazing is skipped, because the night sky feels less like beauty and more like exposure to something too large to comprehend. The fear isn't of space or time. It's of being caught inside them, without escape. But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. You are not infinite. You are finite. And that's not limitation. It's gift. This moment will end. This breath will pass. And that makes it real. You don't need forever. You only need now. And right now, you are here. Breathing. Feeling. Alive. Some people begin to soften this fear by focusing on small endings. A candle burning down, a glass of water sipped to the last drop, a playlist reaching its final song. These tiny closures help the mind believe, not everything goes on. And that's okay. You don't have to hold the whole of time. You only have to hold the second. The one where your chest rises. The one where your fingers rest on the blanket. The one where the room is still. Over time, the thought of endlessness begins to lose its weight. It becomes not a threat, but a backdrop, like the air, like silence, like the hum of the earth beneath you. You are not required to understand it. You only need to be within it, gently, briefly, completely. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry you into the infinite. It carries you into the finite, into the warmth of the bed, into the rhythm of your breath, into the quiet certainty that you are here, now, and safe. You don't have to last forever. You only have to be. And in this moment, you are. The fear of bats, Chiroptophobia. They swoop at dusk, silent, unpredictable, cutting through the fading light like shadows with wings. For someone with Chiroptophobia, bats aren't animals. They're symbols. Of chaos. Of the dark. Of things that move where they shouldn't. The fear isn't of harm, not really. It's of the unknown they carry, the myths, the legends, the way they seem to defy order. Some trace it to a single moment, a bat tangled in bedroom curtains, darting in panicked circles, its high-pitched screech echoing in the dark. Others to stories, vampire tales whispered at sleepovers, or horror films where the flutter of wings meant something was coming. The brain maps bats as ambush. Not because they attack, but because they appear without warning, silent until they're too close. So life adjusts. Evenings are spent indoors. Windows stay shut, even on warm nights. Nature documentaries are skipped, not out of disinterest, but to avoid the sudden image of a colony pouring from a cave. Travel plans avoid caves, attics, or rural lodges known for bat sightings. And if one is seen during the day, sluggish, grounded, it doesn't inspire concern. It triggers dread. The mind races. Why is it here? What does it want? But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. Bats don't come for you. They navigate. They feed. They live. Their flight may seem erratic, but it's precise, guided by sound, by instinct, by the quiet pulse of survival. They are not omens. They are not harbingers. They are simply creatures, doing what creatures do. And you, right here, right now, are safe. The night is not threat. It is rest. The air is still. The room is warm. And if a bat flies by, it doesn't see you. It only sees its path. Like you. Like breath. Like life. Moving forward. One moment at a time. Some people begin to soften this fear not by facing the dark sky, but by meeting the truth in small doses. A documentary watched with the lights on. A quiet article read about how bats pollinate plants, how they eat mosquitoes, how they sleep upside down not to frighten, but because their bodies are built that way. Over time, the image shifts, from monster to mammal, from threat to tenant of the night. The flutter becomes not a warning, but a whisper of movement in the dark. You don't have to love them. You don't have to watch them. You only have to let them be, without fear. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the echo of wings. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not hunted. You are not watched. You are here, grounded, whole, and safe. The night belongs to many. But this moment, this breath, belongs to you. The fear of failure, Atychiphobia. A single typo. A missed deadline. A joke that falls flat. For someone with Atychiphobia, these aren't small mistakes. They're not even mistakes at all, they're catastrophes. Because failure isn't an event. It's identity. I am a failure. The fear doesn't live in the outcome. It lives in the anticipation, the quiet dread before hitting send, before stepping on stage, before saying I love you. Some trace this back to childhood, a report card where 1B erased the memory of all the A's, or a parent whose sigh after a lost game felt heavier than any punishment. Others to a moment, a presentation that collapsed mid-sentence, a relationship that ended because of a misstep, a dream deferred not by lack of effort, but by the terror of not being enough. The brain learns, anything less than perfect is disaster. So life becomes a choreography of avoidance. Risks are dodged. Challenges declined. Even trying feels dangerous, because trying means the possibility of falling short. Work emails are edited for hours. Creative projects stay half-finished, never shared. Social invitations are declined, not out of disinterest, but because the fear of awkwardness, of not being liked, feels unbearable. The body reads imperfection as threat. And so, safety becomes stillness. But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a gentler truth. Failure is not end. It's feedback. It's how we learn. You don't have to be perfect. You only have to try. And right now, in this moment, you are not broken. You are breathing. You are here. Some people begin to soften this fear not by chasing success, but by meeting failure in small, safe ways. A low-stakes trivia night where a wrong answer is inevitable. A recipe cooked without a backup plan. A journal entry shared with one trusted friend. Each time the world keeps spinning, the mind begins to rewrite the story. I failed. And I'm still here. The knot in the chest loosens. The shoulders drop. The breath deepens. Over time, failure stops being a verdict and starts being data, not a reflection of worth, but a sign of movement. You are not failing because you're weak. You are failing because you're alive. Because you're reaching. And every reach, no matter how it lands, is proof that you haven't given up. You don't have to celebrate mistakes. You don't have to love them. You only have to let them exist without defining you. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the weight of past missteps. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not measured by outcomes. You are not judged by stumbles. You are here, whole, and safe. The day is over. The effort was made. And that is enough. The fear of clowns, Coulrophobia. Painted smiles that don't blink. Eyes too wide, too still. Costumes that hide the body's true shape. For someone with Coulrophobia, clowns aren't funny. They're unsettling. Not because of horror films or haunted houses, though those can deepen the fear, but because the mask hides the truth. What's behind the grin? Is it joy? Or something else? The brain doesn't trust stillness in motion, laughter without cause, a face that never changes. Some trace this fear to a single moment, a childhood birthday party where a clown loomed too close, or a parade float that moved in jerky, unpredictable ways. Others to a deeper unease, the violation of expected expressions. A frown shows sadness. A smile shows happiness. But a clown's face is frozen in cheer, no matter what's happening inside. That disconnect between appearance and emotion feels like deception. And deception, over time, becomes threat. So life adjusts. Parades are avoided. Circuses skipped. Even cartoons with clown characters are fast-forwarded. Family photos from a trip to a theme park might be deleted if a costumed character appears in the background. The fear isn't loud. It hums beneath the surface, a tightening in the chest, a slight turn of the head when a red nose appears on screen. Some people carry the discomfort into adulthood without knowing its origin, only that something about exaggerated features and forced joy feels wrong. But in the quiet of night, when the room is dark and the breath slows, there's a different truth. Behind every mask is a person. Breathing. Feeling. Real. They put on the costume not to frighten, but to play a role, to bring lightness into a heavy world. And you, right here, right now, are not trapped. You are not being watched. You are not required to laugh. You are safe. Some people begin to soften this fear not by facing a live clown, but by meeting the human behind the paint. Watching a time-lapse video of a makeup artist transforming a blank face into a character, not a clown at first, but something neutral, like a lion or a robot. The brain sees the features disappear, and just as importantly, sees them return when the makeup comes off. There's a person underneath. Ordinary. Warm. Temporary. After a few days of this, switching to a video of a clown transformation feels far less jarring. The viewer already knows the truth. It's not a monster. It's a performer. A worker. someone who takes the costume off at the end of the day. Over time, the image shifts from predator to person, from threat to someone just trying to do their job. You don't have to like clowns. You don't have to go to the circus. You only have to let them exist without fear. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the echo of laughter that doesn't mean joy. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not being fooled. You are not being tricked. You are here, grounded, whole, and safe. The night belongs to silence. And in this silence, no one is watching. No one is performing. There is only you, breathing, resting, and letting go. The fear of palindromes, Palindrophobia. A word reads the same forward and backward, madam, level, race car. For most, it's a curious pattern, a playful quirk of language. But for someone with palindrophobia, it's not fun. It's a loop with no exit. A verbal boomerang that returns before it's gone. The fear isn't of symmetry itself, but of repetition that feels inescapable. Like being trapped in a sentence that never ends, where meaning folds back on itself and progress vanishes. Some trace this to a moment, staring at a digital clock at 12:21, feeling the numbers echo in the mind long after looking away. Others to a childhood obsession with patterns, where order became a cage, and anything that repeated felt like a trap. The brain maps palindromes as mental snares, harmless on the surface, but capable of locking the mind into cycles of thought. So life adjusts. Notes are edited to avoid mirrored words. Clocks are turned away. Even casual texting becomes a minefield. Wow, mom, dad, all potentially triggering. One student replaced level with tear in her study notes just to keep her focus clear. Another avoided driving past mile markers like 404, worried the number would echo all day. The fear isn't loud. It hums beneath the surface, a quiet tension when a palindrome appears, not in fear of harm, but of being caught in a loop with no release. But in the stillness of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. A word doesn't have to mean anything. It can just be. And a pattern doesn't have to trap you. It can simply pass, like a ripple on water. You don't have to follow it to the end. You don't have to complete the cycle. You only have to let it rise and fade. Some people begin to soften this fear by starting small, writing pop on a piece of paper, saying it aloud, and watching it dissolve into silence. No echo. No loop. Just sound. Others listen to palindromic phrases spoken slowly, a man, a plan, a canal, Panama, not to memorize, but to feel the rhythm as music, not menace. Over time, the word loses its weight. It becomes not a trap, but a shape, like a circle, like a wave, like breath. You don't have to break it. You don't have to escape it. You only have to rest beside it, knowing it cannot hold you. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry you into repetition. It carries you into stillness, into the space between thoughts, between sounds, between words. A place where nothing loops. Nothing returns. There is only this breath. This moment. This quiet. You are not caught. You are not stuck. You are here. And in this stillness, you are free. The fear of Cottonophobia. A cotton ball rests on a shelf, soft, white, harmless. But for someone with Cottonophobia, it's not just material. It's a trigger. Not because of texture, but because of memory. A small piece of fluff can carry the weight of pain, a medical swab dipped in cold alcohol, an air cleaner used too roughly, a childhood procedure where cotton was everywhere, in the room, in the hands of a nurse, pressed against skin with no warning. The fear isn't of the fabric itself. It's of what it represents: intrusion, loss of control, the moment the body was not its own. Some trace it to a single event, a doctor's office where cotton touched a wound, or a relative who used cotton swabs in a way that felt violating. Others to a deeper association, bandages that meant injury, pads that meant illness, or even childhood games where cotton was used in unexpected, startling ways. The brain maps cotton as threat. So life adjusts. Medical appointments are delayed. Swabs are refused. Even household items are avoided: cotton pads, cotton balls, loose stuffing from a torn pillow. A person might check labels on clothing, avoiding blends with high cotton content, not because it itches, but because the word itself feels loaded. Bedding is chosen for its synthetic feel, smooth and distant from that soft, fibrous texture. Some keep their distance by using only paper towels, or by storing cotton-based items in sealed containers, out of sight, out of mind. The fear doesn't announce itself loudly. It hums beneath the surface, a slight tension when a tissue is offered, a quiet refusal of a cotton-lined glove, a flinch at the sight of fluff drifting through the air. But in the quiet of night, when the room is warm and the breath slows, there's a different truth. This cotton is not that cotton. This moment is not that moment. The fluff on the shelf doesn't know your history. It doesn't remember the pain. It only exists now, neutral, still, quiet. And you, right here, right now, are not in that past. You are here, in a room where nothing is being applied, nothing is being taken. You are safe. Some people begin to soften this fear not by touching cotton directly, but by meeting it from a distance. Watching a time-lapse video of cotton being harvested, not as a product, but as a plant, growing in a field, moved by wind. The brain begins to see it as nature, not medicine. Others keep a small piece of cotton in a glass jar, just to look at, to acknowledge its presence without interaction. Over time, the object loses its power. It becomes not a symbol, but a thing, like a pebble, like a leaf, like dust. You don't have to hold it. You don't have to use it. You only have to let it be, without fear. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the echo of cold swabs or sudden touches. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that your body belongs to you. The past is not pressing on your skin. The present is soft. The air is calm. And you are here, breathing, whole, and safe. The fear of bananas, bananaphobia. The curve of it. The way the peel splits like a grin. The smell, sweet, but faintly chemical. For someone with bananaphobia, a banana isn't just a fruit. It's a symbol of absurdity, of unpredictability, of something too ordinary to fear, and yet, feared deeply. The fear isn't logical. It doesn't come from a bite or a bad reaction. It arises from association, a childhood prank where someone slipped on a peel, a horror comedy scene where a banana became a weapon, or a moment when the fruit's shape felt too much like a smile that never fades. Some trace it to sensory discomfort, the slimy texture when bitten, the way it sticks to the roof of the mouth, the quiet pop of the stem when broken off. Others to a deeper unease, the way something so soft can feel invasive, how its color shifts from bright yellow to something dark and bruised, like a slow decay in plain sight. The brain maps the banana not as food, but as a relic of discomfort. So life adjusts. Grocery lists skip the fruit aisle. Lunchboxes hold apples, oranges, grapes, anything but that curved yellow shape. Workplaces with communal fruit bowls become tense spaces. A single banana on a desk can feel like a threat. One person switched to pre-cut fruit packs just to avoid seeing the whole thing. Another refuses to enter a kitchen where someone is peeling one, not out of disgust, but because the sound, that slow, fibrous tear, sends a quiet ripple through the nervous system. The fear doesn't announce itself with panic. It hums beneath the surface, a slight tension, a turned head, a plate pushed slightly to the side. But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. A banana is not alive. It does not watch. It does not judge. It grows, ripens, and eventually returns to the earth. Like leaves. Like breath. Like time. And you, right here, right now, are not in its path. You are safe. Some people begin to soften this fear not by eating a banana, but by meeting it from a distance. Watching a time-lapse of one ripening, not to confront, but to see it as a natural process, not a performance. Others keep a plastic banana on a shelf, a harmless replica, always the same, never changing, never sticky. Over time, the real fruit begins to lose its power. It becomes not a symbol, but a thing, like a rock, like a spoon, like a shadow. You don't have to touch it. You don't have to eat it. You only have to let it exist without fear. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the echo of peels or the ghost of slips. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not defined by what you avoid. You are not broken by what unsettles you. You are here, breathing, whole, and safe. The room is dark. The air is still. And in this moment, no banana can reach you. You are not falling. You are not slipping. You are resting. And that is enough. The fear of trust, Pistophobia. Every promise feels like a future betrayal. For someone with Pistophobia, trust isn't a bridge, it's a cliff. Because to trust is to hand over a piece of yourself, not knowing if it will be held, returned, or dropped without a sound. It's not that people are always unkind. It's that the memory of being let down weighs heavier than the possibility of being seen. Some trace this fear to layers of loss, a childhood friend who shared a secret with the whole class, a first love who vanished after a heartfelt confession, a business partner who broke an agreement without remorse. Each breach doesn't just hurt. It teaches. The mind begins to see trust not as connection, but as risk. And risk feels like danger. So life adjusts. Conversations stay surface level. Plans are made with escape routes. Compliments are deflected, not because they're unwanted, but because accepting them feels like stepping onto thin ice. Even kindness can feel suspicious. What do they want? When will the other shoe drop? The fear isn't loud. It hums beneath the surface, a quiet hesitation before replying to a text, a pause before sharing a dream, a habit of testing people in small, unseen ways. The world becomes a series of cautious steps, each one measuring how much can be given without breaking. But in the quiet of night, when the room is warm and the breath slows, there's a different truth. You don't have to trust the world. You don't have to believe in everyone. You only need to trust this breath. And the next. And the next. Some people begin to soften this fear not by leaping into openness, but by noticing small, quiet moments of reliability, a barista who remembers their order, a colleague who replies exactly when they said they would, a neighbor who returns a borrowed tool with a smile. These aren't grand gestures. They're tiny proofs that not every promise breaks. Over time, the mind begins to reframe trust, not as a blind leap, but as a series of small steps. You don't have to hand over your whole heart. You only have to let one word be true. One moment be safe. And in that moment, You are not foolish. You are human. You are here. The weight of past betrayals doesn't vanish. But it doesn't have to define the present. You are not required to be guarded forever. You are allowed to rest. To breathe. To believe, just a little, that some things can be as they seem. And as sleep comes, it doesn't ask you to forgive, to forget, or to open wide. It only asks you to let go of the need to protect, to predict, to control. You are not alone in this. You are not unprotected. You are here, in a room that holds you, in a body that breathes for you, in a night that asks nothing at all. You are safe. You are whole. And you are enough. The fear of flirting, Symmetrophobia. A compliment lingers a second too long. A smile doesn't fade quickly enough. For someone with Symmetrophobia, it's not charm, it's a siren. The fear isn't of love, or even of sex. It's of the space between them, the playful glance, the teasing text, the ambiguous touch on the arm. That in-between zone feels like quicksand. Because flirting doesn't ask for a yes or no. It asks you to dance on the edge of meaning, where every gesture could be innocent or a promise. And the mind, trained by past missteps, braces for the latter. Some trace this fear to a single moment, a flirtation that escalated too fast, a joke mistaken for interest, or a rejection that left them feeling exposed, as if they'd been caught pretending. Others to a lifetime of mixed signals, a parent who used affection as manipulation, a culture that equated attention with worth, or a series of friendships where boundaries blurred without warning. The brain learns, playfulness is not safe. It's a test you didn't know you were taking. So life adjusts. Eye contact is softened. Jokes are kept neutral. Social media interactions stay polite, never warm. Even a harmless "you look nice today" can send a quiet ripple through the nervous system, not because it's untrue, but because it opens a door you didn't mean to unlock. The fear isn't of connection. It's of misreading, of stepping forward when you should have stepped back, of being seen as eager when you were only being kind. But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. Not every smile is an invitation. Not every compliment is a claim. Some people begin to soften this fear not by flirting back, but by witnessing it from a distance, watching friends laugh and lean in, seeing how playfulness can exist without pressure. Others practice small, controlled exchanges, a light joke with a barista, a warm nod to a neighbor, not to escalate, but to feel the moment pass without consequence. Over time, the tension eases. The body learns, you don't have to respond. You don't have to decide. You only have to be here, as you are, without performance. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the weight of unread signals. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not required to be charming. You are not required to be desired. You only need to rest. And in this rest, you are whole. The fear of aging, Chirophobia. A new line appears at the corner of the eye. Hair thins. The joint creaks when standing. For someone with Chirophobia, these aren't signs of living, they're warnings. Because aging isn't just change. It's loss. The fear isn't of death, not directly. It's of the slow fade, of energy, of beauty, of relevance. Of becoming invisible. Some trace this to a childhood memory, a grandparent who once carried them, now leaning on a walker, voice trembling. Others to a moment in the mirror, catching a glimpse of gray and feeling, suddenly, like a stranger. The brain learns, time is not kind. It takes. And so, the body braces. Sunscreen is applied religiously. Mirrors are avoided. Birthdays are not celebrated, but endured, each one a marker on a path they didn't mean to walk. Social media is curated to hide signs of change. Filters soften edges. Old photos are favored. Even compliments about looking young can feel like a threat, a reminder of what will eventually be lost. The fear isn't loud. It hums beneath the surface, a slight tension when passing a reflective surface, a quiet refusal of photos, a hesitation before booking a medical checkup, as if avoiding the appointment might slow the clock. But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. Aging is not punishment. It's proof. Proof that you have lived. That you have loved. That you have endured. You are not fading. You are accumulating moments, memories, layers of experience. Some people begin to soften this fear not by denying time, but by meeting it gently. A journal where they write one small thing they appreciate about their body each day, not youth, but strength, warmth, breath. Others revisit old photos not to mourn who they were, but to thank that self for carrying them this far. Over time, the mirror begins to change. Not because the face does, but because the gaze softens. The lines are no longer cracks. They are maps. Of laughter. Of worry. Of nights spent awake with someone they loved. You don't have to celebrate every change. You don't have to welcome every ache. You only have to let them exist without fear. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the weight of time passing. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not less because you are older. You are more. More lived. More real. More whole. The night doesn't care how many years you've known. It only asks you to rest. And in this rest, you are not fading. You are arriving. Exactly as you should be. Breathing. Here. Now. And that is enough. The fear of staying unmarried/single, Unsettling. A wedding invitation arrives. A friend's baby shower. A couple holding hands on a park bench. For someone with Unsettling, these aren't just moments of joy, they're echoes of a future that feels incomplete. The fear isn't of solitude. It's of being seen as unfinished. Of a life that doesn't follow the expected arc, meet, love, marry, build. Some trace this to childhood, growing up in a culture where marriage was presented as the ultimate achievement, or a family that asked, every holiday, when will you find someone? Others to a moment, standing at a friend's wedding, watching the vows, and feeling not happiness, but a quiet dread. Will that ever be me? The brain learns, single means lacking. And lacking means invisible. So life adjusts. Dating apps are opened and closed, not out of disinterest, but from the weight of expectation. Social events are scanned for potential partners, not connection. Even casual conversations carry a hidden question. Could this lead to more? The fear isn't of being alone. It's of being permanently alone, of growing older without a witness, without a hand to hold in a hospital bed, without someone who chooses you every day. Family gatherings become tense, not because of conflict, but because of what's unspoken. The silence after someone says, "You'll find the right person," hangs like a verdict. But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. A life is not a story that must follow a template. It doesn't need a second character to be valid. You are not incomplete because you are unpaired. You are not behind. You are here. And here is enough. Some people begin to soften this fear not by rushing into relationships, but by redefining what a full life looks like. They write a letter to their future self, not as a couple, but as a person who has learned to trust their own company. Others create rituals that feel like belonging, a weekly call with a friend, a solo trip to a place they've always wanted to see, a small dinner set for one, served with care. Over time, the narrative shifts. Being single doesn't mean waiting. It means living. You don't have to be chosen by someone else to be worthy of love. You are already held, by your breath, by your choices, by the quiet courage it takes to be you. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the weight of timelines or societal scripts. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not late. You are not missing out. You are not less. You are not alone in this. Millions walk this path, not because they gave up, but because they chose to honor their truth. The night doesn't care about status. It only asks you to rest. And in this rest, you are whole. The fear of deep bodies of water, Thalassophobia. The surface of the ocean glitters under sunlight. Calm. Inviting. But beneath it, for someone with Thalassophobia, lies a different world, vast, dark, and unknowable. The fear isn't of swimming, or of waves. It's of the depth. Of what exists where light no longer reaches. Where the pressure increases with every foot down, and silence becomes absolute. Some trace this fear to a moment, standing on a dock as a child, peering into the black water below, and feeling the sudden urge to step back. Others to a documentary, a deep-sea camera drifting through an abyss, revealing creatures with eyes too large, mouths too wide, moving in ways that feel alien. The brain maps the deep as mystery, and mystery, when it feels infinite, becomes threat. So life adjusts. Beach vacations are spent on dry sand, never wading past the ankles. Boats are avoided, even small ones. Even bath time changes, showers preferred, tubs drained quickly, the water kept shallow. Swimming pools are tolerated only if the bottom is visible, the edges clear. The fear isn't of drowning. It's of the unseen. Of something brushing your leg and vanishing before you turn. Of the horizon stretching too far, with no land in sight. Of being suspended between sky and abyss, with no solid ground beneath. But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. You are not in the deep. You are here. On dry land. In a room that holds you. The water cannot reach you. And even if it could, the vastness below is not hunting. It is simply being. Creatures of the deep don't rise to take you. They live in their world, as you live in yours. Some people begin to soften this fear not by facing the ocean, but by meeting water in small, safe ways. Watching a fish tank, clear, contained, predictable. Listening to recordings of shallow waves, not the low rumbles of the abyss. Others start with images, photos of coral reefs, sunlit and colorful, where life thrives in clarity, not darkness. Over time, the mind begins to see the ocean not as a single, monolithic threat, but as layers, surface, mid-water, deep, each with its own rhythm, its own quiet. You don't have to explore it. You don't have to understand it. You only have to let it exist without fear. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry you into the dark. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not falling. You are not sinking. You are resting. The air is around you. The bed supports you. And the only water nearby is the glass on your nightstand, still, shallow, and safe. You are not lost in the deep. You are here. Breathing. Whole. And that is enough. The fear of being touched, hippophobia. A hand brushes your shoulder in a crowd. A friend leans in for a hug. A doctor places a stethoscope on your back. For someone with hippophobia, these aren't gestures of care. They're intrusions. Not because the touch is painful, but because it's unexpected, uncontrolled, or simply too much. The fear isn't of violence. It's of loss, of autonomy, of space, of the quiet boundary between self and world. Some trace this to a single moment, a medical procedure done without warning, a relative who hugged too tightly, a stranger who grabbed their arm on the street. Others to a lifetime of sensory sensitivity, where even soft fabric feels abrasive, and skin contact amplifies every nerve. The brain learns, touch is not always kind. It can be demand, not connection. So life adjusts. Hoods stay up. Shoulders stay turned. Social gatherings are navigated with care, standing at the edge, keeping pockets full to avoid handshakes, wearing layers to create a buffer. Even well-meaning affection from loved ones can spark tension, not because they're unloved, but because the body braces before the mind can consent. The fear hums beneath the surface, a slight flinch at a passing brush, a pause before sitting beside someone on a bench, a quiet decline of a massage offer. Some avoid clothing stores where fitting room attendants might assist, or skip concerts where crowds press close. The body reads contact as threat, and so it guards itself, always. But in the quiet of night, when the world softens and the breath slows, there's a different truth. You are not required to be touched. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to exist in your own space, unbreached, whole. And right now, in this moment, no one is reaching for you. The air is light. The room is still. Some people begin to soften this fear not by inviting touch, but by reclaiming control over their own body. A warm bath, where water flows only when they choose. A weighted blanket, heavy and predictable, offering pressure they've consented to. Others practice gentle self-contact, placing a hand on their own arm, feeling the warmth, the stillness, the safety of their own presence. Over time, the nervous system begins to relearn. Not all touch is violation. Some is warmth. Some is grounding. Some is simply there. You don't have to welcome it from others. You only need to know that you decide. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the echo of sudden hands or uninvited closeness. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that your body belongs to you. The night doesn't reach. It only holds. And in this holding, you are safe. You are not exposed. You are not vulnerable. You are here, breathing, whole, and free. The fear of smells, olfactophobia. A scent drifts through the air, warm bread from a kitchen, perfume in an elevator, the sharp tang of cleaning spray. For most, it's background. For someone with olfactophobia, it's an intrusion. Not because the smell is unpleasant, but because it arrives uninvited, bypassing thought and lodging directly in the body. Smell doesn't ask permission. It slips past guards, triggering memories, emotions, even panic, before the mind can catch up. Some trace this fear to a single moment, a chemical spill at school, a hospital corridor filled with antiseptic, or a relative's cologne that lingered after a painful goodbye. Others to a lifetime of sensory sensitivity, where even a faint aroma can feel overwhelming, like sound turned up too loud. The brain learns, smell is not neutral. It carries history. A whiff of garlic can summon a childhood scolding. The scent of rain on pavement can unlock a memory of being lost. And so, the body braces. Daily life adjusts. Homes are kept scent-free, no candles, no air fresheners, no cooking with strong spices. Public spaces become minefields. Elevators, buses, crowded offices, anywhere someone might wear perfume or carry takeout, require mental preparation. Some wear masks not for illness, but to filter the world. Others avoid grocery stores entirely, relying on delivery. Even nature walks are skipped if the air carries pollen or blooming flowers. The fear isn't of dirt or decay. It's of being overtaken, of a smell claiming space inside you, refusing to leave. But in the quiet of night, when the room is still and the breath slows, there's a different truth. You are not your memories. You are not trapped in the past. The scent in the air right now is just air, molecules passing through, already fading. And you, right here, right now, are safe. Some people begin to soften this fear not by facing strong smells, but by meeting scent in small, controlled ways. A drop of essential oil on a cotton ball, placed across the room, just to notice it without reaction. Others focus on their own breath, cool air in, warm air out, using it as an anchor, a reminder that they control what enters their body, even when the world offers more. Over time, the nervous system begins to relearn. Not every smell is a threat. Some are simply information. Some are neutral. Some are even kind, the warmth of laundry, the softness of paper, the quiet musk of a well-worn book. You don't have to welcome every scent. You don't have to like them. You only have to let them pass, like clouds, like thoughts, like breath. And as sleep comes, it doesn't carry the weight of old odors or hidden triggers. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not invaded. You are not overwhelmed. You are here, breathing, whole, and safe. The air is calm. The room is clear. And in this moment, no smell can hold you. The fear of public speaking, glossophobia. A name is called. A spotlight shifts. The room turns toward you. For someone with glossophobia, this isn't an invitation to speak. It's a collapse of safety. Because public speaking isn't just about words. It's about exposure. About standing in front of others, visible, voice trembling, heart pounding, while every breath feels judged. The fear isn't of forgetting a line. It's of being seen as weak, foolish, less than. Some trace this to a single moment, a school presentation where the class laughed, a work meeting where their voice cracked mid-sentence, or a toast at a wedding where silence followed their final word. Others to a lifetime of feeling watched, a child raised to be seen and not heard, only to later be thrust into the spotlight with no preparation. The brain learns, attention is danger. So the body braces. Shoulders tighten. Throat closes. Hands grow cold. Even the thought of speaking up in a small group can send a quiet wave of panic through the nervous system. Daily life adjusts. Meetings are attended but not spoken in. University courses are chosen for written exams, not presentations. Weddings are attended with a firm "I'll pass on speaking." One person records video messages instead of joining live calls, editing out every pause, every breath that might seem uncertain. The fear hums beneath the surface, not loud, but constant. A knot in the chest at the idea of being called on, a flinch when a microphone is passed around, a habit of sitting in the back row, just out of sight. But in the quiet of night, when the room is warm and the breath slows, there's a different truth. You are not your fear. You are not defined by the words you didn't say. You are here. And here is enough. Some people begin to soften this fear not by stepping onto a stage, but by speaking to the air. A sentence whispered into the dark. A thought spoken aloud while alone in the kitchen. No audience. No judgment. Just sound. Others start with recordings, their voice, speaking calmly, playing it back not to critique, but to hear themselves as they are, human, imperfect, real. Over time, the mind begins to reframe speech, not as performance, but as presence. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be loud. You only have to be true. And as sleep comes, It doesn't carry the echo of silence or the weight of unspoken words. It carries you into stillness, into warmth, into the quiet certainty that you are not required to perform. You are not required to prove yourself. You only need to rest. The room is dark. The air is still. And in this moment, no one is waiting for you to speak. You are not on stage. You are at home. In your body. In your breath. And you are safe.